4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
But the American people have to demand that folks in Washington do their job. Do something. That's my big motto for Congress right now. Just do something. And if they don't like the transportation plan that I put forward, at least come up with your own plan, and then we can compromise. But don't just sit there and do nothing. We don't have time. America's on the move.
I can't help but laugh. America's on the move. Yeah, there you go. Joining us now, folks, is Charles Hurt, columnist for the Washington Times. Good to talk to you again, Charles.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm on the move, apparently. With you and me,
move.
We're all
That's
on the move. All right, you wrote a great piece today at the Washington Times, and you're talking about that now that we're all invested in this Obamacare fiasco, it's your business. We're paying for everybody else's health care, so now every time you see some guy on a motorcycle, et cetera, you're worried that he's safe, because otherwise we're going to be paying for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I've never been somebody who or at least I've tried to never be somebody who moralizes and gets all worried about what other people do in their own private lives. It's just not something that concerns me. I've got too many interesting things sort of in my own life to worry about. But now suddenly, because of this Obamacare thing, we are forced into, as these people say, we're being forced into their bedrooms and forced into their bathrooms because we're suddenly paying for all this stuff. And there's no better example than this example with the Hobby Lobby, where I think of myself as being a fairly humble guy when it comes to things like contraception. I certainly don't know the answers. I'm not God. I'm not Christ. I don't understand these things, but I do know that when I'm suddenly going to have to start paying for all of it, then suddenly I have to become an expert on it, and I really don't like that. And I kind of liked it back when I didn't have to be an expert on these things.
Yeah, no, we are in a whole different sphere here, and it's a dangerous sphere as well, because under the guise of we all have to pay for it, and this has been going on for quite some time from the likes of the Mayor Bloombergs of the world. Because we all have to pay for it, if you get diabetes, you can't do this. And because we all have to pay for it, and you brought up the motorcycle rider at the end, I've always been against, in the past, forcing people to put on motorcycle helmets. I figure if they kill themselves and they want to kill themselves and risk it, what do I care? But you're right, now we got to pay for it. But that's the argument they make to clamp down on us and take away our freedoms and dictate what we do.
Yeah, and of course, the second you step in there and pay for someone else's hazardous behavior, for dangerous behavior that puts themselves at peril, well, what are you doing? It's simple, basic logic or economics. You are thereby encouraging them to do this. And the second you encourage people to do things like that, then when they get maimed or killed, it's sort of a little bit on your hands. But the notion of moral hazard with these people, by these people, I mean President Obama and the Democrats and the people that support all of this nonsense, they have no concept of it. And you look no further than the border. You legalize all the illegal children in the country, and you know what happens? Lots of children come unaccompanied to the border, and then you see a lot of them dying. Why is it that these people think that they somehow like these people more than you and I do? We don't want to see them dying, crawling across the desert, and yet they have no problem with it, and or maybe they just ignore it and pretend it doesn't happen. I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how they go to bed at night. I would be so heartbroken if I had known that my policies had encouraged these children to take on this dangerous trek where they get raped and murdered or die horrible, painful, slow deaths.
Do you think the president's fooling anybody anymore? I mean, I have never seen, you and I haven't talked in about maybe 3 weeks. I have never seen a man appear so, I guess, disinterested. He's given up. He's making these. He's speaking totally off the top of his head, and it's always the same thing: me, I, poor me. They're doing things to me they've never done to anybody else. I guess they don't like me. Yeah, they're going to sue me. Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't even know what it is. It's not even like a candidate, the never-ending campaign. It's worse than that. It's a pity me tour, and it's just beneath the presidency, in my view.
Yeah, it's funny because 2 weeks ago I checked out to go take my children shark fishing in the Gulf of Mexico. We had a very nice time. I checked out about 50%, and I have to say, Steve, coming back and sort of dialing back into to all this stuff and listening to the president after having tried my best for 2 weeks to not listen to him, it really is. I think you're onto something there. It's like something has turned, and he's reached a level of patheticness that we didn't see before. And in a way, I'm almost starting to. You kind of feel sorry for him because I've long ago decided that he certainly doesn't know what he's doing, but now I'm sort of wondering if not only does he not know what he's doing and never knew what he was getting into, but that he also is kind of so out of it that he doesn't even realize that he doesn't realize that that he is this far out of his depth, and he just thinks that, oh well, they're giving me a hard time, so therefore, it must be because they're treating me differently than everybody else. When you're like, no.
Right, and of course, Eric Holder perpetuating that myth. And as I said to others on this show today, for the Attorney General of the United States to keep bringing this up, that some of the animus towards Barack Obama and towards him is race-based. Well, I could state with certainty, almost total certainty, that some blacks who didn't vote for Mitt Romney or John McCain did so because of racial, animus towards whites. Now, whether that's one person or a million, that's a true statement. So what does that mean?
And also, in addition to that, Steve, I bet there are, I'm certain, I know for a fact that there are blacks who voted for President Obama because he was black.
Right.
And I have to say, I understand that. I remember, it was with great pride in 2008 that notwithstanding the fact that I didn't agree with him on policy positions, I was proud that a black politician managed to get into the White House. I was proud of that, and I know that. But that, so what? What difference does that make? I mean, that doesn't mean anything. And for them to dwell on this stuff now, when actually this presidency could have been such an extraordinary racial healing, a unifying thing in this country. The idea that 6 years into it, you got somebody like Eric Holder who really, I mean, there's just something nasty about him. The idea that he's sitting there still fomenting all this stuff and promulgating it, it really, I thought that we were going to make strides of putting this behind us.
No, there's nothing about putting it behind us in rules for radicals, Charles. So that's not going to happen. Now, but what's interesting, and you see this posted on the Drudge Report every single day, more and more and more of these stories from more cities around the country where African Americans are now speaking out against this president, spurred on by the border situation and the president's wanting $4 billion to solve it, or in his view solve it. And now you got African Americans who are twice the number of unemployed compared to whites, who are, education still stinks in this country. You name it. Crime is out of control in Chicago and other major cities. And they're saying out loud, this president stinks. What about us?
Yeah. Yeah, and then the idea that this administration is going to spend literally billions of dollars in order to deal with in order to placate the crisis on the border, and the efforts that they're going to in order to find housing and in some cases luxurious housing for these illegals who do not belong in this country. The idea that he would do that, understandably, upsets a lot of people, a lot of his traditional supporters, and you saw it with Martin O'Malley. He was condemning the White House for suggesting that the illegal children would be sent home, and then he does an about face very quickly when the president says, "Okay, great, we'll put some in Maryland," which has to be probably the single most concentrated Democratic state in the country.
Yep.
And suddenly they're like, "No, we don't want them," and because this is something that is going to hurt Democrats just as it would hurt Republicans if they were to pull a stunt like that.
Absolutely. By the way, the president's going to speak any minute. He's going to make remarks about increased sanctions against Russia, which I don't really understand because I thought Ukraine was a great success. We were told by this administration not too long ago. So I'm all confused about that. Did you catch the All-Star game at all last night?
I did, and I was, and I have to say I've always had a soft spot for Derek Jeter, and I thought that all that kerfuffle about Adam Wainwright saying that
he laid one into him, yeah.
I don't know what to make of that. I'm choosing to believe that when Adam said he was just kind of pulling.
Well, it's like
leg.
I heard some people say today, whether he threw one down there or not, you still got to hit it, and he certainly didn't lob one into Cabrera or to Trout, and they creamed him. So let's give Derek the benefit of the doubt. And by the way, just so you know, I had Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Sr. sitting with me at the beginning of the show. He's got a great new book out, and we had a great baseball talk. So, and he won the MVP for the All-Star game back in 1980. So it was kind of interesting. But hey, Charles, welcome back. Great to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, Charles Hurt, ladies and gentlemen, of the Washington Times. When we come back, we're going to talk to Tom Rogan about the protests against Israel in places like France and Germany, and you name it, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, only on Newsmax Television.